Hello, and welcome to something a little bit different. We are looking over patch version 1553, the mother of all patches. So it seems like what they're doing for the new update, they're releasing it in two parts. The first part, the one we're getting now, is the patch, which isn't adding any new stuff, but it's all the changes and fixes, all the changes to units, as well as changes to maps and all that type of stuff. And the second patch, which should be coming out later on this week, will include the new units and the new maps. So that's how they are doing it. So today I just want to talk about some of the new changes. There's an awful lot of changes, like 450 lines of stuff that has been added. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I'm going to give you guys a general consensus on what it is all about. One of the first changes we have is activation points. They kind of change how many bonus activation points you get for making national decks. Quick example, USA now gets +2 activation points compared to plus runs, so they can get, extra on toss or told so yeah, you want. A second change that we have is how infantry rifles work with their primary weapons. For example, submachine guns are now better in CQC. Yeah, and let's say an assault rifle, where an assault rifle would be a jack of all trades, and battle rifles and bolt actions would be better at longer range while staying still. Infantry are now listed in 4 different categories of basic infantry. First off, we have the reserve infantry, who all move at 15 kilometers an hour. They usually are quite cheap, and they're not really great with their weapons, as you can see. Secondary, have the bulk standard line infantry. They all move at 20 kilometers an hour. They're a little better with their weapons, but still not the best. They're your bulk standard guys, and they are, a little bit more expensive. Third off, we have our shock infantry, who all move at 25 kilometers an hour. You see, they are a lot better with their weapons, and they're more of the, in between the elite guys and the line infantry, so they're kind of the best of both worlds. And speaking of elite infantry, that's the final category we have, as they all move at 30 kilometers an hour, and they are very good with the weaponry that they come with. And these guys are quite badass. Recon has also been changed up as well in terms of the infantry. There's different, more standardized classes of them. First we have just the line Recon, Reserve, it's Recon. They're very cheap guys, they have very good optics, and they go at 20 kilometers an hour, and you can usually get 12 of them in a card. Yeah, and we have some of the more better Recon units, or the Shock Recon, which are a bit more expensive. As you see, they go at 25 kilometers an hour. Still have very good optics and are still mainly just 5-man squads, and they usually come with a machine gun to defend themselves with, so they are slightly better at dealing with the enemy. We also now have elite recon infantry, like his SAS guys, for example, who move at a whopping 30 kilometers an hour, still very good optics. But as you see, they now have a strength of 10. Like we look at the Fern Spurs, that's actually a different unit. The Pathfinder strength of 10. So these guys are pretty good, as they can actually hold their own because they do have that HP. And finally, we have our sniper teams, like the Fernspur, which is a complete overhaul, and some people have really been wanting snipers in the game. Here you go. There are a 2-man squad, as you can see, with only 2 rocket launchers and quite a bit of ammo. And as you notice, you might have the sniper rifle with a whopping 19 accuracy and 50 rounds. This is a one-hit kill gun on infantry, or kills one infantry guy for one hit. It doesn't knock out the entire squad. They've also changed up ATGMs in a very general way to say they made most of them better by giving them more armor penetration damage by 1 or 2 points. So it is quite good. Take a look into the logistics tab first. The first thing you're probably going to notice, a lot of ECVs are now more cheaper. They have made most of the CVs cheaper by like 10 to 30 points, so CV tanks are quite good to get, as well as APCs. They are not super expensive. They made some other like resupply vehicles better fuel capacity or better supplies, guys, and carry 1,700. I know the Chinook carries 2,500 now as well. And big change, FOBs, you can't actually see it right now because it is invisible, but let's pretend there's an FOB here. 16,000 fuel capacity. They added 6,000 more fuel capacity than before. Now there is kind of a downside to this. Most resupply trucks and helicopters, there's less availability in cars now. For example, you could get 24 of these guys, of these M35 cargoes, in a Cat A deck. Now you can only get 12, so it seems like what they're wanting to do is make you keep your resupply trucks alive longer, so you can refuel it back at the FOB, which now carries an awful lot. In terms of infantry, we have a few changes. For example, ATGM squads and AA squads. Like, if I can just find it, Strela 2 go at 15 kilometers an hour, while anti-tank teams, like the more guys, go at 20. We have a rechange of a unit, Mountaineers. These guys used to be the Dragon 2 ATGM squad, but now they're the Dragon 2 ATGM squad on steroids. They have a 15-man strength, Dragon 2 ATGM, and machine gun. Now they've really made them quite badass. We have some general changes as well. For example, the blowpipe now does a little bit more damage. Some price changes with some French infantry. Some availability changes with the Russian stuff, like the Fagut and the Strela 2. You can now get more of them in a deck. As well for the Polish, we do have a little bit of cosmetic changes. These guys now have a pretty funny looking hat. Port section, we don't have too many changes. Some big changes, the OSA style series of AA now have slightly better range against helicopters. The American Paladin, you can now get 2 of these in one card. And yeah, that's really it in terms of the grand scheme of things. Also, before I actually lose my train of thought, West German Mortar 2 Roland now only has 2,275 range against helicopters. Beforehand it has 2,450, so it is a bit of a change. In terms of the tank section, we have an awful lot of minor changes. Long story short, a lot of these more medium cheaper tanks, they now have better accuracy and a few AP changes here and yeah. Also, with some of the more packed heavier tanks like T-80s, Line and all of that, they now give them some pretty good stabilizers, and the T-72 is now 40 points instead of 35, but they kind of gave it a few more buffs. If I can just move my cursor over here, you can see they made it a bit more accurate. So yeah, it is quite good. In terms of the recon section, yeah, there's not really been too many changes that I haven't mentioned earlier. As you saw, infantry mechanics have been changed around, so a lot of these guys will act very differently in you last saw them. In terms of vehicles, not too many price changes. A few price changes here and yeah, between a few of them, but that's really about it. Vehicle section, we have quite a few changes. For example, like these tank destroyers here, they have to be standing still to shoot their main gun. We have some quite big price changes. For example, the BMP-2 and BMP-1 are a lot cheaper by 5 points. Now you get a 10-point armored transport with 2 armor. Yeah, that's pretty good. So he did remove this one's ATGM, and this is the old one with ATGM. For the United States, we have some brilliant changes. For example, the LAV is now 30 points. It used to be 35, so cheap LAV is always good. And finally, if I can find it, they now have a cheap Bradley. This is a 35-point Bradley, and yeah, that's pretty good. The United States, Bradleys have always been nice units to have, but have always been really expensive, and this one has been given a little bit of a price decrease too, and now it has a Toad 2 ATGM, which is quite killer. Price changes, as usual, all around the board in terms of vehicles. chapter section, this is like the shortest part of the patch notes, thank God, but there are some few major changes. For example, the Apache has a Hellfire Sea missile. No change here, but for the Seahawk, if I can just find it, as you see, it uses the Hellfire A, which is semi-active, as the good old Apache is just fire and forget. Same with the Recon Kira. This is now semi-active, so you're gonna have to keep your eyes on target, but it shouldn't be firing as fast as it used to be, which is quite good. Yes, Cobra now has a twin minigun, and because beforehand it didn't have a twin minigun, it just counted as run, even though you can clearly see in the model, yeah, it's 2. In terms of pack, Joe, K50 cooler now has 8 HP, beforehand it only had 6. And the KA-29 is now 5 points cheaper, so there's a little bit more reason to get this giant beluga rail of a helicopter. Also, price changes and all of that around the board. I shouldn't even be having to say it anymore. In terms of aircraft, there are quite a lot of changes. I'm not going to go through all of them, just the ones that really stood out for me. So let's get started. First off, this Aardvark is now a HE bomber. Beforehand, it was just a cluster bomber of only 8 cluster bombs. So it's been refitted to basically act like an Su-24 MP. The F-14 Tomcat now fires its missiles in a different ray, as these Phoenix missiles, they're fired 2 at the same time, at the same target, but at a lot less accuracy. So, quite interesting airworks, quite different now from the MiG-30 run. Over here, West Germans, HE bomber now, thank God, thank God, thank God. Beforehand, they didn't really have anything to do with infantry inside of garrisoned areas. Now they do with this little bugger. If we take a look at some USSR planes, some changes here. Su-24 is now a lot cheaper, and it has been reconfigured to a Category C seed aircraft. It's slightly less better than it was now, but now you can use in Cat C and get an awful lot of them. Su-25 only has 4 ATGMs now, compared to it used to have 6 of them. And another big change, finally, MiG-31M, it doesn't have a gun. No gun. This can only be used at long range now with its air-to-air missiles. You can't do any strafing runs or try to knock out any planes from a distance array. And yeah, there's a lot of changes. A lot of changes to planes. There's not really enough time for me to cover every single small detail. Last thing I'm going to be talking about before this video is over are the new map changes. First off, this is Lilyhammer. We have a new capture points here and here, and they have removed the spawn point in the Golf and Bravo sector. On Uppsala, we have quite a lot of changes. First one that you notice is that they removed a lot of the spawn zones. There's no spawn zone in Gregory, no spawn zone here, here, or here anymore, and as you notice in the middle is vastly different now, with Fedor and Elena being slapped down close to each other. Quite interesting indeed, because Fedor was such a huge area now, and you can't get any reinforcements close by. On Alisand, the Mike and Charlie side spawns have been removed. Darlana, the Delta Foxtrot, and Juliet Lima side spawns have also been removed. Mark has received a huge overhaul, as it no longer looks like the huge bloated mess as it was before. There's a few less side spawns, and you see the sectors have really been changed up. For example, this used to just be one big sector, but now it is 2 sectors divided up, and it seems a lot more even in terms of map design, which is always quite good. I'm quite happy about this change, to be honest. Continuing on with the theme of the patch, the Bravo and Juliet side spawns have been removed, but the runs all around have stayed the same. And that has been the patch notes version 1.553. I hope I learned something today, and I'm really looking forward to the new metagame. Yeah, real pop out in this new version of the game. A lot of changes have been made with maps, with basic mechanics, with core units. I mean, I'm going to go through right now and change a lot of my decks. So I'm going to go do that, and you guys take it easy.